please, if you learn anything today, you do not draw up plays at the end of a game. They do not work. There's a 1 in 1,000 chance of it working. You work on plays all year long. You name them, you practice them, and then literally you might not have a timeout. You just call the play out, and that's how we do it. You need to be able to execute under pressure. Welcome to another Coaching You podcast with the coach, Brendan Suhr, presented by Noah Basketball. Noah Basketball is where 7 of the 8 NCAA Elite 8 finalists use their product. All 4 Final Four teams use it, as well as the world champion New York Knicks. All 30 teams in the league use this. It is an incredible product that they've now developed for every high school and college team in the country can now get the same one the pros are using. Go to noahbasketball.com. Make sure you talk to one of their reps, and I think you'll really go to our show notes, and you'll really be able to find out some things. I'm going to do, after this timeout, I'm going to come back and talk about our newly crowned champs, New York Knicks, and the NBA Finals with the Spurs, and some of my thoughts and observations from this series, which, in my opinion, was one of the most unusual that I've ever seen or witnessed. And so I think you're really going to enjoy this. So quick timeout, speak to our friends from Noah, and then we'll be back and talk about the NBA Finals. Noah Basketball is our new presenting sponsor of our Coaching You podcast. Noah Basketball is a shot tracking and data company that has helped change how coaches and players perfect the game's most important skill, shooting. Noah is a data service provider that uses machine learning and the latest computer vision technology to provide real-time data and feedback to improve shooting accuracy and consistency for professional and amateur basketball players. Noah has now analyzed over 570 million shots from countless high school, hundreds of college teams, and 28 NBA franchises. The technology is simply amazing. Once the system has been installed, players will be able to get immediate feedback on their shooting arc, left and right positioning, depth, makes or misses, and makes the data available to players and coaches on your mobile device. For more information about how Noah can help your team, visit noahbasketball.com. The just concluded NBA Finals were the most unusual I've ever seen. The New York Knicks win the championship in 5 games, which I'm really thrilled about, having worked for the Knicks for years, growing up in the New York area. It was my team growing up as a kid, and I was really happy for him. All the coaches on their staff are friends of ours at Coaching You, but I was really happy for Mike Brown and his staff. I tell you what, I've never seen a tournament, an event, a finals, where the team that lost was winning by double digits in all 5 of the games. That they actually outscored or led the team for basically 72% of the minutes played. They were ahead, the Spurs were. And to have a double-digit lead, be ahead almost 3/4 of the time, and then lose the series 4-1, it's kind of amazing. So I call it a crazy series. I thought we had amazing performances from both teams. Brunson obviously was spectacular, but I also call this an analytic nightmare. And I'm not down on analytics people, but they've creeped into the NBA game in a big way. They have tried to, basically carve the way the game should be coached and played, with a ton of 3-point shots, with switching on defense and all these things that they have really done. And my conclusion to this is really kind of a simple one, uh, that I think coaching matters, and coaching matters in a damn big way because I think what we saw is several things. Number 1, the Knicks had a 16-3 record in it to win the championship. 2 of the games they lost to Atlanta were by 1 point each, and then they lost game 3 at home to San Antonio. You know, I just think it's absolutely an amazing, amazing thing that's happened. What I also saw was that why did San Antonio, if they had these double-digit leads, why did they lose? And I think that's I think when you do a deep dive into it, when they do their film study this summer, and they analyze it, I hope one of the things that they see is that when you when you do have a lead in the game at any level, high school, college, and pro, and that's why I always try to take things that I've learned in the NBA, they apply to high school and college. When you have a big lead, even with a shot clock, even a 24-second shot clock, you have to consider time and score. Time and score is so darn important because when you have a lead, you don't have to come down and make one pass and shoot a three. You don't have to come down and just shoot a three in 4 seconds. You need to make sure that, you know, you get a good shot every time down, that you don't have live ball turnovers. So I think that's one of the things that we have to really, as a coach now, how does that apply to me as a coach at the high school, college, or pro level? One of the things I always have emphasized is that you have to coach special situations, not for 5 minutes a day or 10 minutes in a practice with no defense on there. You have to coach special situations every practice you have. You have to work on those things that all of a sudden you have a 10-point lead and there's 7 minutes to go in the game. There's 5 minutes to go. How do we come down? What are the ways do we win the game? And I think those are things that I've observed. Along those lines, I think one of the things that you see is that you have to make sure that your best players get shots. It's not you can't play 5 out concept actions where we run these actions and anyone can shoot the ball. When you get into tight games, the NBA, they call them clutch time games. I call them crunch time, last 4 or 5 minutes of a game. You gotta make sure that the people that you designed your offense so that your best players are the ones getting the shots, and they get shots over designed actions. Don't leave it to a player that you hope they might get to the action that you want. I specifically wanna get actions. I want the defense, depending on what defense they're playing, if they're switching on defense, I wanna go set screens on players I'm trying to get open. And when you have all isolation, one-on-one type of basketball, which is what both series were getting down to, is that guys were going one-on-one, and the guys that were making shots were the teams that were winning. And Jalen Brunson, Mike Brown did a phenomenal job, but they were not running any offense in that game when they were down 16 points. And they came back to win, and Brunson gets 45 points and 15 points in a row at one point. It's because he was able to take his player that was guarding him one-on-one and gain an advantage. Simply put, whether you give him a little bump screen and roll at the top of the key, that doesn't matter. He rejected the screens. He just went one-on-one. Hey, most teams don't have Jalen Brunson. You don't have Wimby. You don't have Castle. So what you have to do as a coach, your job as a coach is to take players where they can't take themselves. Your job is to be the guide. You're the one that's supposed to help them, especially when they're in trouble. And during every game I've ever coached in the finals, of which I've had 9 games I've coached in the finals, at some point your team gets in trouble. Many times your team gets in trouble. And as Chuck Daly used to always tell me, we're not gonna get a lot of chance to coach these guys during the year because they don't think they need us. But in the playoffs, they'll let us help them, and in the finals, they really are looking for your help because they've never played under such pressure. And so I think it's really, really important. Other observations is that all those fast breaks that you do, taking the ball out of the basket after a made basket, all those fast breaks stuff that you do during the season, it doesn't work in the playoffs. You don't get fast breaks after a basket. San Antonio got a couple of runouts in the playoffs, cool. But good, you know, all your fast breaks in the playoffs are gonna come off defense. You have to make sure your defense is good. And all the Knicks fast break points in the last couple of games, all were because they got stops on defense. They got steals, they got long rebounds, etcetera, block shots, steals, things of that but defensive stops is what got them fast breaks. And then the fast breaks you get are more sometimes 2-on-1 fast breaks, 3-on-1, 3-on-2. Those are the fast breaks you're looking for where you get an advantage. Those are the highest completion ones. So I think we make a mistake by trying to run all the time in a 48-minute game in the pros, in a 40-minute college game, in a 32-minute high school game. If you're trying to run every minute of the game, it works if you have much better players than the other team. You can do anything you want, frankly. But when the opponent is equally matched, you're playing in a league that's incredibly competitive. My philosophy is always do what's going to help you win against the best teams in your league. Do what's going to help you win in your state tournament if you're a high school coach. Do what's going to help you win a playoff game if you're in college, NCAA tournament game, or what's going to help you win a playoff game in the pros. That is the way you should base all of your philosophy, offense and defense. Don't do it to just be able to check the box that we run fast breaks after makes and misses. It's okay to have fast breaks after make, but I'm telling you, when you play high level competition, the fast breaks after a made basket, the best you can hope for is you're just going to tie the score. If they scored 2 or 3 on you, you might get 2 or 3 on them. If you miss, then they have a chance to get 2 or 3 more, and now you're going down 4 or 6 points. That's my philosophy on that. The other observation I have, every team I've ever had that's been highly successful, you win with really good point guard play. You win with guards. I think you can build championship level teams. I know we did in Detroit with guards. They control the game. So go out and find yourself really good guards. Develop in your high school team, college team, good guard play. Teach them how to play effectively. Get the most out of them. In the pros, you can win with small guards, not just Isaiah Thomas or Steph Curry, now Jalen Brunson. You can go and win with small guards. I think you're going to see in the NBA draft next week, I think you're going to see a ton of guards taken in the first 10, 12 picks. It's because that's how important they are. I think it's really, really important that you understand that. So we've talked about how coaching matters. Defense travels, home and road. The Knicks went and won 3 games on the road. Amazing. On the road in San Antonio, one of the hardest venues to play in. Great fans. They went and played. The Knicks were not a good defensive team early in the season. They had lost kind of their philosophy and their identity under Coach Tibbs. And then later in the season, and especially in the playoff, they became an elite defensive team. An elite defensive team because they had 2 very weak defenders in Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. But as a group, as a 5-man team, they were elite because they played together defensively. So you can have weak players. We had them with the Pistons. We had weak spots. But as a group, they were phenomenal because they were together. And I think that is one of the biggest things that you see. Defense travels. If you don't focus on your defense, it's going to be really hard to win at any level. That's my takeaway on that. Time and score. Practice that every day. practice whether you have a shot clock in high school or you don't, the score, okay? And so I learned time and score from the great Morgan Wooten, the former legendary Hall of Fame coach from DeMatha High School. When I first got into coaching, when I was 21 years old, I went to recruit DeMatha player, and I sat in his office at 21 years of age, and I said, and I just sat there, and I was at several of his practices, and he liked me because I had the same first name as his son, Brendan. Okay, so he was kind to me, and he also knew I was 21 years old. I didn't know what the hell I was doing as a college assistant, and he would talk to me, and he'd say to me, "Time and score is really important, Brendan, really important." And now I look back and I said, "They had no shot clock." The time left in the game, 8-minute quarters, there's 3 minutes left in the game. The scores were up 6 points. Time and score is important whether there's a shot clock or not. So I really believe that that is one of the things I would be emphasizing every day with my players. And again, this is not as a coach something you're yelling from the sideline. You gotta train and teach, and I use the word teach because that's what we are as coaches. You got to teach your point guards, your players to think like you do. When we were coaching the Pistons, Chuck, I went from UB Brown and Mike Fratello calling every play we ran to all of a sudden Chuck letting Isaiah and Dumars call every play themselves, except when we felt we had something that we wanted to share with them during the game. But I would say in a regular season game, they would call 80% of the plays during the game. But it got them involved, it taught them how to think the game. And frankly, they called plays better than we did at times. And then all of a sudden, at a key point in the game, we'd say, "Hey, this is what we noticed. This is something we can get involved in." Get your players involved, ask them what they think, and teach them how to run the game for you. Dean Smith was a huge advocate of that. Always was meeting with his guards to teach them how he wanted the game played and coached. And again, don't let analytics don't and I call them the analytics people. They're not a cult, please, okay? Analytics people in college and pro, they're really professional people. They're high-paid people. They know their craft. But the game of basketball is played by players and is coached by us as coaches that use the analytics as one tool in your toolbox of how to coach better and more effectively. Before there were computers and all that, we all had a stat sheet. We looked at the stat sheet, and at the end of the game, any coach, high school, college, or pro could look at that stat sheet and say, "Here's why we won," or "Here's why we lost." Every coach has his own philosophy and his own metrics that are important to him. For some, it's field goal percentage defense, turnovers, rebounds, assists. Steve Kerr wants 300 passes a game, 30 plus assists. That's important for him for his offensive flow. Okay. Whatever things that make sense to you, that are metrics that you can get your team to believe will help them win, that's the key. Okay. But the idea of coming down and shooting threes, how about if you don't have any good three-point shooters? You look at some of the final games, you look at some of the guys that were shooting in the finals, and you look at their field goal percentages, absolutely incredible. The idea is to make baskets, not take shots. And so make sure your best players. One of the great coaches that we work with at Coaching You, Lenny Akoff, the great coach at Stanford University now. Lenny told me that when he does his shooting drills, unguarded players taking three-point shots, if they can't make 60 or 70% of threes when no one's guarding them, then they don't have the green light to take a three in a game. And I said, wow, that's a high percentage. Then I talked to Steph Curry. He made 105 straight threes, and he normally will make between 80 and 95 threes when he shoots by himself out of 100 shots. That's the best. But 70% unguarded, I think it's fair. as the percentages go down, you become a 50 out of 100, a 40 out of 100. You get to shoot a wide open shot when the shot clock's running down or time is expiring in the game. That's it. You don't get the green light. And what it does is encourages them to get in the gym and practice and become better at it. Okay, so make sure the analytics people will tell you layups, free throws, open corner threes. That's great. But you know what? Twos count also. So when you're up 29 points in a game, like game 4 that San Antonio was, it would have been nice if we took some twos as opposed to every 3-point shot they took in the third quarter missed. Would have been nice if we made some twos. The lead would have stayed the same. That's what I think you have to understand about time and score and about analytics. Make sure your best players get the most shots. Make sure your best players get good shots. And then run things for players where you put them in the best position to score. And if the guy's not a good shooter, maybe you use him as a cutter to get layups on flex cuts, shuffle cuts, UCLA cuts, fast break layups. Rodman, we never called a play for offensive rebound baskets, things of that nature. We talked about fast breaks. Make sure you practice. When you're practicing, one of the big things that my 5-on-5 defense, that's my shell defense. I've talked about this too often with you guys. 5-on-5 shell, when we get a stop, we fast break every time. Teach your players. I used to work for coaches, played for coaches that we would stay on defense for 10 possessions in a row. That's not realistic. Every time we're on defense, we get a stop, we run. I have no problem if they score, you stay on defense. But let's encourage them to get stops and then run. Then you get to work on your fast break, and also we get to work on our transition defense. Teach your players also how to run lanes. Teach them how to run lanes. Get out there, get wide, make sure the guard makes good decisions with the ball. We have so many bad decisions that happen in the playoffs. These are by the best players in the world. I think this is one of the things and the other thing is, make sure as a coach, we're working on our free throws every single day. This podcast is sponsored by Sprite, by the way. Work on your free throws under pressure. It's so important. New York almost blew that game 5 by making 1 of 2 down the stretch a couple of times. And make sure that we take those free throws, and also make sure late in games you want to get to the foul line. You also, I can't emphasize enough, you got to work on getting the ball inbounds late in the game. We saw it in these playoffs consistently. You got to be able to get the ball inbounds, baseline or side. And you got to have things that you don't draw up plays. Please, if you learn anything today, you do not draw up plays at the end of a game. They do not work. There's a 1 in 1,000 chance of it working. You work on plays all year long. You name them, you practice them, and then literally you might not have a timeout. You just call the play out, and that's how we do. And I think it's really important. A well-coached team is literally where you can call the play out, the defense hears what you call, and you still know how to execute and score. So what we saw is you need to be able to execute under pressure. The last thing I'm going to leave you with, my high school coach and my first NBA coach, the great UB Brown, Hall of Famer, said this. It has stuck with me for 47 years. When I went to the Hawks, he was named NBA Coach of the Year. And at his press conference, he said, the notoriety of a coach is dictated by the performance and execution of his players under pressure. What the hell does that mean? It means Mike Brown is a terrific coach, tremendous coach, because his players performed, and executed under pressure. Jalen Brunson is an incredible player because he executed under pressure. So it's so important that you get your players and team to perform and execute under pressure. And the pressure is the game, a tight competitive game. That's why with all of the key thing in coaching now is to keep adapting as we get, I've been in this game for 50 years. You got to keep adapting. Player development, off-season trainers has become huge in this game. So what am I doing? I am now, when I have my players, I am now working on them 5-on-5. So it's so important that you get them and work 5-on-5 because they're not working 5-on-5 in the off season when you don't have them. They're working 1-on-0 with a trainer on step back threes and shit like that. Okay. That is not what you need. They are not guarding anyone in the off season. They're not passing the ball to anyone. They're not cutting. Trainers don't do any of that. They're working 1-on-0. They're not even playing 1-on-1. So it's so important for you when you get them to teach them team things and also teach them the fundamentals of even how to pass, dribble, pivot. All those things are so damn important. Okay. So these are some takeaways from a fabulous playoff series. Congrats to the Knicks. Incredible. Happy for Mike Brown and his staff, the New York Knicks organization. The Spurs are a franchise on the rise. They're young guys, youngest team in the league. You're going to have to go through growing pains. You can't skip steps in this business. You cannot. They didn't hit a roadblock till the finals. That's when they couldn't skip any more steps. So remember, later in the week, the great Jay Billis, who has done our draft preview podcast for years, he's going to share things for the draft for next Tuesday, Wednesday. And then also I want to remind you, our clinic, July 10, 11, 12 in Las Vegas. Go to coachingyoulive.com/2026. VIPs all sold out. Tried to warn you. Excuse me. Our general admission, we have spots left for that. It's going to be incredible event, best speakers we've ever had. Look forward to seeing all of our incredible followers that come to Vegas in July. It's going to be incredible. Till next week, or actually later in the week with Jay Billis, this is the coach, Brendan Suhr.